forgot to mention about support. But this time, I want to take the advice of a couple of steps farther, because advice is only as good as the patient takes it. And sometimes the doctor doesn't have very good bed manners and moves away from the patient, and they're not able to succeed, to be with you long enough to help you succeed. I brought two tomes with me that I recommend. The New Geography of Jobs, Moretti. This goes back to what Michael was talking about. The New Geography of Jobs is about places that continue to make jobs. About 130, 40 years ago, Manchester, England, was the richest city in the world. Only 50 years ago, Detroit was one of the richest cities in the world. At the same time, San Jose was selling oranges. So things can change very fast. So don't latch on to anything other than your ability to recreate, reposition. That's what Moretti says. The other book is written by an old Ed Blakely, called Planning Local Economic Development. And it starts from a very different premise. Economies start locally. They don't start globally. The global economy is a series of well-thought-out, smart local acts. And it's cities that work together now, not nations. And Mr. Putin wants to provide disincentives for Russians to eat Australian fruit and vegetables. So be it. But I'll bet there'll be more Australian fruit and vegetables on the average Russian's table than there is now. At the conclusion of his letting people know there must be good fruits and vegetables there. Because the world economy defies national borders. And we have to be a global place, a global city. My motto is, make a difference in the world, or make a different world. And that's what Penrith has to do. Do I have a clicker? I can't. I got it. But I guess I'll have to go to you. So, I want to thank Mark Maserati for all of his help in this. And we've tried to use what we have to construct what we may become. And cities are economic units, communities, LGAs, whatever you want to call them, nested in a region. And how we nest ourselves in that region is very, very important. So the economic realities will shape our global future. And they'll shape it very definitely. And our economic realities have to coincide with the realities of the region in which we sit, which is New South Wales. And this is the employment growth we have in these regions. And as all economists will tell you, this is an equilibrium game. So if you grow faster, something else is going to grow slower, and it'll equal out. But the trick is, how do you make this equilibrium game work for you so that you can make gains in the sectors where you can perfect your abilities, where you can be better, like North Carolina. 25 years ago, North Carolina Triangle was just 3 universities. Today, it's one of the biggest job producers in the world because they use the synergies of 3 universities using distinctive technologies to create a research environment that if you want to be one of the top bioscientists in the world, you've got to go there. So that's what I call magnet infrastructure, that you create a place that people have to go in their track across the global economy. If you're going to reach the top in finance, you've got to go to London or New York. Not possible to be at the top without going there. And all of our great movie stars flee to Hollywood. We can make movies here, but that's the capital. So we have to have the magnets in our infrastructure to make this work for us. So where are we doing well? The line down here, this one line, represents our ability to compete. That is, we are producing the same amount of jobs at one as the rest of the economy is. So let's look up here at arts and recreation. We're not quite at one. Well, if we add information and media to that, we'd probably be at one. And we have some magnet infrastructure here in graphic arts at UWS. A little television station that most of us don't know much about. And healthcare, we know we're very high up there at the PN Hospital, the health education that's going on here. We've been having focus groups with people here. We have some real assets in health. We are taking care of people well. But the big asset in health is not taking care of ourselves. That's taking money out of our pocket, putting in the hospital's pocket, and going off someplace else in the world where they're making the machinery. The real trick is for us to be an exporter of health. Healthcare, lifestyle, and other things. So dollars come to us. People come to us for cosmetic surgery. Or they come to us because we have the greatest fitness center in the world, and the competitions are held here. And that builds industries around that we don't even know about this much. We don't know what those industries are going to look like. Maybe the nano thing that you put on your arm to measure your heart, or it'll stop your diabetes, or whatever it is. We've got to be the place where we can nurture that. And because we have a nub of it, we have strengths in this area, how can we build it to be something else? And in transportation, and then warehousing, because of the M7 and the confluence of things, we are a big warehousing center, warehousing goods and so on for transport elsewhere. But what does warehousing do? It hires one man, a forklift, and a dog. And the dog does better than anyone. But there's other kind of warehousing going on here right now. There's information warehousing. The cloud is not something far off in outer space. The cloud is a bunch of antennas. They're nested just outside of Penrith, and more that's coming here because this information is stored. And I'm not from ASIO or the CIA, but more and more information is going to be stored. And that information storage won't be in boxes anymore. It's going to be these antennas and on the farms, and it's going to be fast switches, smart technology. So the other thing is there's rumor that may be an airport. And if that rumor becomes true, I'm willing to predict that my future international flight will not be from Mascot. It'll be from here. So that could mean a whole different set of dynamics in this economy when it comes to transportation, logistics, and the rest. And I'll talk about these things. In this area, electricity, gas, water, and so forth, combined with manufacturing, is kind of this advanced manufacturing, recycling, whatever you want to call it, is beginning to hover here because we've got the land mass for it and the like. And we also have some emerging technologies that go with it, and I'll go through that. And then we have UWS here. We have a lot of education going on across the health sector and other sectors. So let me go into these. These sectors that we identified, the 5 sectors we identified, have a confluence. And I did some fancy statistical analysis that shows that these things come together. So as we're just learning, it's not how you shape these specific directions. I really call it direction than sector or job. It's how you make these things work together so they produce together. So information, logistics, and customized engineering create a new cluster. And over here in the health and lifestyle and education, we create a cluster. And in between, we have our retail, food services, professional services, and finance that will support. And as they grow, we grow. I just got an email from the mayor of Parramatta asking me about some things that are going on in downtown Sydney. I said, Mayor, this is great. If they get a job, we get 2. because the interdependencies that are going on. So we've got to think about not just growing these jobs as separate things, but growing them together. So the first one, customized engineering. And what we're going to ask those of you who, I don't think we have a table there, we have a table that's called Catalyst. But we'd like some of you to think about, do we have the capacities in these areas to find a future, to find a direction? Not a specific program or a project, but a direction. And that direction requires certain kinds of infrastructure. The magnet infrastructure I was talking about earlier. The magnet infrastructure usually has three characteristics. One is a physical thing that you have in abundance that reinforces your ability to be competitive. Now, we have the water here and so forth, but that's not going to help us much in engineering. But one of the things that they had in Silicon Valley, quite by accident, was some underground, I think it was helium or something at Stanford University, that helped make the first computer chips. So there are certain things, the Media Lab at MIT, and so those are magnets. Do we have some things in this customized engineering? Hubert, who I haven't mentioned yet, said he's looking through the data, and he says, actually, you have the capacity to make the physical forms of the future made out of natural materials here. We have wood. We have a lot of the technology. We have people working in this space now. We have architects here and other people who are working on the reuse of materials that may shape the future. More buildings are being made of wood and new materials now. The old materials, in fact, are materials not just wasteful, they're energy absorbing, they're terrible on the environment, they're not good buildings to live in, but now we're making living buildings. We have all the capacities here, including the architects, to help craft that future here. Health and lifestyle. Medical surgery, day surgery is becoming an important era. I've just gone through that, not to lower Christmas. This knee is a day surgery operation that I got in New York, in a place where I stayed a few hours, in a nice room, a thing like a hotel, and it was about $400 or $500 for the night. And, with Obamacare, the surgery was free. I want to thank Mr. Obama here publicly. But the increasingly time in hospitals is going down. The kind of surgeries people now are getting are not life-threatening. My wife says I got to do something with my eyes, get that cleaned up, because my lids are dripping such that it's hard to see anymore. That's a day surgery operation. People are going to come from Asia here for heart operations. We have great cardiovascular care. Now we're going to Thailand for our, but I don't think we're going there for our heart. They're coming here for that. So we have to have the facilities to accommodate the people when they're here, because when I got up for my surgery, I was able to walk out. But I spent another day there in New York. That wasn't hard. I probably spent a couple $1,000. Maybe Obama was counting on that to pay back for the operation. But we have to have integrated facilities here, so international visitors come here. That's how we'll attract new dollars, new sciences for the new diseases. And the biggest disease is our lifestyle. I talked to my son-in-law. He's a CrossFit person. He's a physio for CrossFit. They'd love to have the CrossFit Games here. That's international people, not just local. We've got everything they need for those games. And I won't go into what CrossFit is because it's really crazy. And the arts. We have many people from the arts here in the room. The arts is the sector that is really the brain sector. But the brain sector has to be put together with the display sector so that we can display the arts, so we can communicate the arts. I was working in Peru once, and I met some women who made these beautiful blankets. To make a long story short, they now sell these blankets exclusively to Bloomingdale's in New York. So when I went back to the village for the celebration, I wish I wore the robes today. They're beautiful. They're doing very well. They jumped from the no economy to the global economy through the internet. Our artists in the Blue Mountains here and so forth can be global. We have all the ingredients, and we just have to figure out how, as Mike said, to tell that story. And then global education. Local education is really important. We have to educate more of our own citizens. That's the second piece of magnet infrastructure. Education, training, and development. That's what North Carolina has in spades. That's what Stanford, Berkeley has in spades. That's what MIT, Harvard has. That's the second piece of the puzzle when you're thinking of magnet infrastructure. And we have to be a globally interesting place to be educated in fields where you say Penrith, it doesn't sound silly. So if I said, and some of you know, the disaster field is one of my fields, and doing disaster education and so forth is a growing area. And the environment, those combined are now really growing areas because we're having more of them, but also because a lot of young people want to help. And they want to be in the helping professions. And if hostilities continue, they're going to be camped in all kinds of places. What would be a better place? We've got the mountains here, we've got the rivers, got all this. My wife's in SES. They come out here to train because we've got the water, all that kind of stuff. I don't mess with her. She swims across these streams and stuff, so I have to be very careful what I say to her. Because she can come across the table before I can shut my mouth. So, and she'll be 70. So we have the basis for a lot of global educational opportunities and sectors. And the last piece of infrastructure, of magnet infrastructure you need, and you have to move from promotion to identity. When somebody says Hollywood, what comes in your head? Nobody's making movies in Hollywood. Have you ever heard any movie actually being made in Hollywood? But what do they have? Identity. Harvard has identity. Bill Clinton was there. Apollo's there. That's the cultural capital of the world. Identity, identity, identity. Not promotion, identity. And that's the coupling of real resources in a real place that magnifies itself. So think about that when we sit down at our tables. What the magnet's going to be in each of these sectors. I can't, you can't, nobody can predict what the ultimate form will be. But as the chairman said, even the longest road, you have to take the first step. No one wins sitting on their assets. So there are failures in this journey, there are successes. Every one of us forget our failures. So let's get on the path to success. And what we need you to do is participate in defining success. So either make a difference in the world or make a different world. And if we do that right, we don't have to worry about the things that come from it. Oh, I forgot transportation. I'm suggesting terminal in Penrith for this new airport. And after he said that, I went up to Hong Kong, where they had a terminal downtown, and I probably spent $1,000 because I didn't have my bags to hang around with me. But I could spend all day in Hong Kong without my bags. And when I first moved here, you could do that in downtown, here. And to our advantage, the road system to that airport is going to be terrible. And there will be no train. So a long train-like bus with bags already in it and so forth packed, and the only thing you have is your little ticket, will make a huge difference to a lot of people, and they'll come here rather than trying to schlep it to here. And then the information services, the airport engineering, courier services, maybe that's the drones, don't know, and freight forwarding are going to be big. They can be big here because we have all the infrastructure for it. So that's the last one. And I want to thank Mark for coming up with that. And then related to that, when those things grow, other things grow. Specialized retail, professional services, housing grow with these things. Now we're building a lot of housing and people are going someplace else for the job. Let's build housing and jobs together. It's a great place to live. It's a great place to work. Let's make it a great place, period. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed.